So, this is going to be a video basically on why I started lifting, why I got into bodybuilding, pretty much a little bit about myself and all of the fucked up shit that has happened to me. Even though I wish I could say I had a more traumatic past, but I really don't. I feel like I've been through a normal amount of trauma, just like most people have, unfortunately. But pretty much okay. Starting at the beginning. I've always been a pretty athletic person, pretty athletic kid. I was in wrestling when I was younger, so I was decently fit. I didn't stay in wrestling for long because I was a big sore loser. I hated to lose. I would cry. I would cry pretty much after every time I lost because I remember a specific time where I lost, and that was it, bro. That was the final time I really ever wanted to ever step on the mats again. And I just cried and cried because I got second place and it wasn't good enough to me. So I've always been a very competitive person, and that's always been like somewhat a reason why I've never liked super teen sport or team sports like football and stuff. So I've never been into like mini sports until I found bodybuilding, of course. And that's why I don't know. I just couldn't get into that stuff because it meant kind of letting someone down if you were on a team in a way. So it kind of started there. I was always like into some type of fitness, even though I kind of let myself go because of some stuff that happened. I'll be getting to that. But I basically, from there, I was living my life as normal until, my parents got divorced. And I feel like pretty much everyone I've ever spoken to has divorced parents. So I don't think it's that uncommon, I guess. But apparently this really messed me up as a kid, though I didn't notice. But obviously I was dealing with some shit, right? I actually I don't know why. I'm guessing it was just some weird coping mechanism. But I started ripping out my hair, ripping out my eyelashes, ripping out my eyebrows. Like I didn't have eyebrows or eyelashes for like a year and a half until I my parents threatened me to like force me to go to therapy. And I was like, no, I don't want to go. And I remember that's when I finally stopped. But I had bald spots all over my head. I would like grab a pencil and like twist it around in my hair and it would fucking rip my hair out, and just I would have bald spots. And clearly that's not normal for like, my age. And like this was when I was like very little. This was not even middle school yet. So I was like 8 to 10 years old, I think. So obviously it was some type of coping mechanism that I didn't fully understand at the time, and I still don't fully understand. Uh and eventually instead of, you know, switching to like fitness, then I switched to eating as a coping mechanism, and I got fat. I got very fat, to the point where I was probably close to being obese for my height and age. And I was very, I didn't think a thing of it until, um, I don't know why, but I don't know if it was kids at school. I don't have a good memory of any of my childhood really. And I just remember like looking down one day in the bathroom and just kind of being disgusted with myself. I was really fucking disappointed, and I don't remember why. Obviously I know now, like I was just fat. There's a deep shame in not looking a certain way. And apparently, I don't know how true this is, but apparently my dad would make comments about my weight and the way I looked. I don't know how true that is, so don't quote me. But I could imagine maybe that's why I maybe was so insecure of it, because it's not something a kid is normally insecure about unless someone makes a comment about it. So someone made a comment about it, obviously, and it really messed me up, clearly, for a very long time. Still to this day, I have a lot of issues going out in public without like normal clothes on. Like, you know, I would have even this, like wearing this outside of the house, not at the gym, in like a public setting that's not the gym. It's still kind of like I don't want people to look at me because it just reminds me of people. I just don't like that. I've struggled a lot with social anxiety, so it's like it doesn't help. And I remember, you know, eventually I was like, yeah, I need to do something about this. I can't just eat a whole pack of Oreos and keep getting fatter. I don't want to look this way forever. So around middle school, I really started to exercise a lot. Not really cleaning up my diet, but at least exercising. We all start somewhere, and I happen to start with my mom's home videos that she would buy, like the Beach Body or P90X videos. I think a lot of people have done those, and to be entirely honest, they're not terrible, but they're really not great. They're just very, very intense cardio sessions, which, quite honestly, it helped me only so much because I wasn't putting on much muscle and I didn't look the way I wanted to look. So it took me a few years to get up the courage and finally get a gym membership because I was so insecure. And once I finally did, dude, I met one of my best friends at the gym. We knew each other's name. Funniest thing though, I had him fucking blocked on Snapchat. So funny to think about now. I don't remember why I had him blocked, but yeah, like he was like, "Oh, you should have me on Snap." I had him fucking blocked, bro. And I was like, "I don't know why I have you blocked, but I do." And yeah, that was just fucking hilarious at the time. And pretty much from there, it kind of made it easier to go to the gym with, like he wasn't my best friend at the time, but he slowly became like literally one of my closest friends. And I have two or three best friends who I'm still close with to this day, and he's there. He's still in my life, and he's one of the best people I've ever met. And he helped me through a lot of shit, thankfully, and he helped me stay consistent at the gym. I would have stayed consistent regardless, but he really helped. So from there, we kind of started doing calisthenics stuff only, and we didn't really get into, you know, weight training like seriously until the rise of bodybuilding on TikTok, really. The rise of JPG coaching. I think a lot of people started there, including myself. He kind of really taught me a lot of the very basics of training, and he really did teach me almost all of the fundamentals that I know now and still know. And just going from there, like, it was literally like I just fell in love with the gym, bro. Like, how could you not? I was making insane progress. I was training with one of my best friends. We were competing to see who could lift more. Like, it was a shit ton of fun, you know? And having testosterone, going through puberty, you're gonna grow a shit ton. So it's like we were making insane progress, and we just fucking loved that shit. Like we were getting strong as fuck, and people were starting to like see it. But backtracking a little bit here, uh, back to like more depressing topics, I guess. So I met a girl in my freshman year, or pretty much my sophomore year. It was the end of my freshman year, and we dated leading into this summer of sophomore year. I met this girl. Crazy how I met her, by the way. I met her through her ex. They had broken up about 3 months prior to us meeting, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you should, like my ex is hot. You should talk to her." And he was right. She was attractive. That's all it took for me, I guess, back in the day. But yeah, she pretty much ruined me. We we talked, we dated, and it didn't go well. I pretty much found out she was pretty much cheating the entire relationship by the end of it. I didn't know until the very end, pretty much. And we dated on and off again for years because I was a little pussy and I didn't have the coping mechanisms or self security that I do now to be single again, or for the first time again after, dating someone, which a lot of people really don't. And I think a lot of it had to do with, my parents being very similar to me in relationships, at least my dad. My dad, like, he's very, we get very attached to those that we fall in love with, I guess. And I for some reason I could not get over this girl. I think that's a common thing for a lot of people though. And you know, it ruined me. It literally ruined me for years. I wasn't making the progress I was before in the gym because my diet would be so fucked because I would basically date her, and when we were dating, it was great. It was beautiful. But I was eating like shit because I was eating out with her a lot. And then, you know, when we would break up, I would still be eating like shit because I was sad and depressed. So it was just a cycle of, being happy and not having someone who was really into the gym like support you and actually like push you away from your goals with fitness. Like that's a big thing with a lot of people I see, which I'm never making that mistake again. I wouldn't date someone who wasn't into the gym because of that lifestyle factor. It it's genuinely a really big deal for me now. And she just like, it took me so long to finally realize like, yeah, this girl is making me a worse person. I am a worse version of myself when I am with this girl. I'm not, I'm not focused on my goals, I'm not focused on bodybuilding. I remember she even said that I was getting to the point, like I was already past the point of where she didn't really find my body attractive. I think partly it was because I was pretty fat at the time again, because I got fat again. But I was also, I was pretty muscular still, and she never really found me attractive. Is something I realized. So that also ruined the way I view myself for a while. Um, I still don't think I'm the most attractive person in the world anyways. I never have. Uh, the gay men in my DMs would probably disagree with me, but uh, I I don't really. Maybe it's just because I'm close to the spectrum, but I'm I'm not good at talking to fucking people I like women I like. Like I just get too rambly, get too. I'm not good at talking in general, but it's kind of something I've learned to get better at, especially now that I've distanced myself from that old relationship and I've finally kind of regained my confidence. Because when I was in that relationship, bro, I was constantly anxious, constantly depressed. Especially like the anxiety was to the point where I was in therapy at the time for this stuff. And my therapist was like, I think you should take meds. Or she suggested it. She didn't say she thought I should take meds, but she was like, I think it would probably help. And I was like, no, because I didn't want to take anything. And I knew I didn't need it because a lot of it was just situational issues. It would only be a band-aid on the issue that I was dealing with. And I eventually, like just recently honestly, have finally started to get in a better headspace with my mental health. I still struggle a lot, uh, especially with body dysmorphia. That's never going to go away, to be entirely honest. But, things are a lot better mentally. Distancing myself from, everyone who kind of just didn't treat me very well growing up. Uh, I, I I didn't have a lot of friends. I still don't. I don't have any friends where I live right now, actually. Um, but I'm very okay with that now. There is still loneliness from time to time, but I'm in a much, much healthier headspace, like, than I was a year ago, even. And that is simply due to the fact that I'm finally pursuing my goals. I don't have to worry about seeing my ex because I lived in a small town. So the possibilities of me seeing her was very high. So I've finally moved and I don't have to risk me running into her. Like not that it would really affect me too much anymore. It's been a while. It's been like over almost 2 years since I've spoken to her. So I I will say I am over her, but it's still just like, it still hurts to like think about. And it's kind of ruined me for new possible relationships sometimes. Not entirely, but it definitely has affected a lot of things with what I look for in relationships now, which is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. But I think now what I'm really mainly focused on in my life is truly just pursuing bodybuilding. Uh, Bodybuilding, growing my coaching business, helping as many people as I can, and you know, eventually moving, living with one of my friends or something. You know, I think genuinely that would be the main thing I want to do with my life right now. Getting a nice car eventually. Like, there's a lot of things I need to work on still, mentally at least. Of course, bodybuilding, we're not even close to being done. We got potentially 2 decades of bodybuilding left. So I got a long way to go, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I hope you'll follow along on my journey with becoming a much better person than I am now, and becoming a much better bodybuilder as well. Toodaloo.